Hi, my name is Jim, and I'm a gunsmith. The name of my shop is Gunworks in Harrington, Maine. Now, this is going to be a short little video. It's not going to be like my normal ones. What we're going to do is we're going to explain how I heat treat receivers for AK-47 sporting rifles. I've had a lot of questions about these. Now, what you want to keep in mind is once the receiver is folded up, technically it's a receiver. It's not a flat anymore. What I like to do though is go ahead and get my serial numbers engraved on it and the markings where the gun was made at, and go ahead and get the rails spot welded in. And then just take this little piece. I have some stainless steel foil that I got from Brownells. Now, what we'll do is we'll fold this thing up in the stainless steel foil. You might ask, why would you do that? Well, if I stick it straight in the furnace as it is right now, we're going to end up with a lot of scale and crap and slag on it. So you want to avoid that. And when you're folding this thing up in the stainless steel foil, be really careful because this stuff's sharp and it'll slice you up really good. And what you're wanting to do is be able to heat this thing up without getting any kind of oxygen to it and making it oxidize. I'm going to make us a nice little tight package out of this thing. We're going to keep all the air out of it we can. Hang on just a second. Fold it a little bit more closed than that. I'll mash this corner down. There we go. That's much better. Yeah, I keep getting a lot of questions. Well, how do you heat treat your receivers? Well, we don't do like some folks and heat just around the trigger pin hole and the hammer pin hole. We actually heat treat the entire receiver and then draw the temper back. I'll tell you what, this stuff, being stainless steel, pretty hard to get squeezed around that. Alright, now let's go put it back here in the furnace. Alright, I've already got my furnace going. I'm going to need a heat shield and some gloves, so let me grab my gloves. Because keep in mind, this furnace I'm using right here is running at about 1450 right now, so we definitely don't want to cook anything, especially me. Alright, now I'm going to let this thing go for about an hour or so, 45 minutes to an hour. Let it get nice and hot. And then I'm going to reach in with my big tongs here and I'm going to pull it out with the tongs. I'm going to drop it in a bucket of water that's got brine solution. 3 pounds of salt to 5 gallons of water. I'm going to swirl it around inside there and let it cool off and quench. Once it's been quenched, that metal is going to be extremely brittle. So what we need to do next is I'm going to draw the temper back. The way I'm going to draw the temper back is I'm going to run the oven to about 750 degrees, put the part back in there again, and then once it hits 750, I'm going to let it go for probably about 20-30 minutes, shut the thing off, and let it cool overnight. Once it cools back down to air temperature, it'll draw the temper back. You'll have a nice, hard, heat-treated steel receiver for an AK-47. Now what you want to do before you get to this point is make sure your rails are welded in, and all your pin holes and everything else as far as the trigger pin and the hammer pin and all your other holes for your rivets and stuff are already drilled out. That way once it comes out of the oven and gets tempered, you can go ahead and finish your final assembly. And that's how I do my AK-47 receivers here at Gunworks. Okay, the proper amount of time's lapsed. It's time to pull that thing out of the furnace here and get it quenched. So, now comes the fun part. This sucker's hot. And I can't pick it up with my hands anymore. Actually, I think it's cooled off enough I can probably reach in the bucket with my hands. Yep. Let's take a look at it here. It's going to have a little bit of a discoloration to it, but that'll polish out. The important thing is it's not going to be covered in a bunch of crap and slag. That's the good part. Man, that sucker's nice. Pretty stiff. So all we got to do now is just clean it up a little bit and then draw the temper back and get it polished and ready for bluing. And there it is.